Good afternoon to you. I'm Danilo Evangelista, and welcome to our Tropical Weather Outlook video for today, Friday, June 13th, 2025. Happy Friday the 13th to you, a very spooky day. And in the world of tropics, there's definitely a few things to talk about today on this Friday the 13th. We have newly formed Tropical Storm Dalila in the Eastern Pacific now. Maximum sustained winds are 40 miles per hour with a minimum central pressure of 1,004 millibars. If you are tracking it, it is located at 14.5 north and 101.8 west, and it is moving northwest at 10 miles per hour. And this will bring impacts to the Mexican coastline this weekend, tomorrow, and Sunday, even though this will stay out to sea. And I'll show you why, because on satellite, we could see that this is Dalila, definitely a more organized system, not obviously the most organized storm in the world, but notice how massive its convective field is. It's quite a broad storm, and you could see that some of these convective outer bands are already reaching the Mexican shore, and this will get closer to the Mexican coast as we head into the weekend. So because of that, tropical storm warnings are in effect, and I'll show you the latest National Hurricane Center track here. Tropical storm warnings are in effect for portions of the Mexican coast, and you can see how wide and expansive the wind field is. It'll probably get close enough to the coast that some of the, or at least the outer skirts of the tropical storm wind field associated with Dalila will make it to the coast. So conditions this weekend will be rainy, windy. Won't be anything too crazy. Maybe there might be a little bit of onshore flow, which will bring some higher waves, but nothing too crazy in terms of significant impacts. And kind of going over what all of the impacts are expected right now, here are the key messages for tropical. So they've clearly not updated it for Dalila, but they say that the outer bands of Tropical Depression 4E, now Dalila, may bring locally heavy rain to the Mexican states of Guerrero, Michoacan, and Colima through this weekend. Isolated flooding and mudslides, especially in areas of steep terrain, are possible. And then this will strengthen into a tropical storm, although this part has already happened. Seems like they've just not updated this graph yet. And this is one of the impacts that Dalila will bring to the Mexican coast. Heavy rain, up to 6 inches along the Mexican coastline in local areas. This is in at least in inches, which is the U.S. metric. But if you're in Mexico and you don't use inches to calculate, your metrics, in millimeters, it is anywhere from 100 to 150 millimeters of rain expected along the Mexican coast. So quite a bit of stormy conditions, nothing too significant, but regardless, this will bring impacts to land, and that is certainly not something to write off in and of itself. And I should always mention to you that the number one impact when it comes to tropical cyclones is the rain. It's the floods, not the winds. Even though we kind of make a big deal, or the biggest deal out of the wind speed or the category that the storm is, but it really is the rainfall that tends to be the biggest killer. And we've seen that time and time again with some of our biggest storms that we've had over the past decade. Their biggest impact was the rain. So if you're along the Mexican coastline this weekend, stay indoors, obviously. Don't let your guard down, and generally prepare for lots of heavy rain and for nuisance weather this weekend. It'll definitely make an impact on plans, especially if you're along the beach. But overall, probably nothing too significant. This is obviously not a powerhouse hurricane impacting the coast, especially not something like Otis, thankfully. Here's a satellite image of the Atlantic. Not much happening, of course. It is mid-June. You really wouldn't expect much to happen anyways. You can see very strong upper-level winds cutting across the upper levels of the atmosphere all throughout the Atlantic pretty much, and we also have very thick, dry air, especially in the eastern Atlantic, all typical things that we have for this time of year. And also over the continental U.S., you could see lots in the way of thunderstorm activity. In fact, I saw a tweet not long ago showing that there's quite a bit of lightning activity taking place across the southeast U.S., and you can certainly see why. Lots of pop-up thunderstorms occurring, and you can see that there is an upper-level system of some sort moving through, and that's probably responsible for a lot of these thunderstorms we are seeing right now. And there's probably some severe weather embedded in it, I'm sure, although I did not check. But you could also see lots in the way of showers and thunderstorms all throughout the Caribbean. And one really good way I like to look at this is the velocity potential, aka MJO, aka the rising motion in the atmosphere, meaning air that is allowed to rise and form into thunderstorms. And this is one of the key factors we look on a week-to-week basis to see, are conditions favorable in the atmosphere for tropical development, because obviously we need convective activity and moisture and a generally unstable atmosphere. And that's generally what's indicated, especially if you look at the map right now. Look at all these blues, especially these deep blues here, right near the South Central America and the southeastern Pacific. Lots of rising motion right now in general over the Eastern Pacific and the Western Atlantic, and you can see that perfectly, especially in the Eastern Pacific and in the Caribbean. You can pretty much see where all the rising motion is by just how much showers and thunderstorms we have in the Caribbean and across the Eastern Pacific right now. And this is what's helping aid lots of the development that we are getting in the Eastern Pacific. And it's certainly going to help to aid our Central American gyre pattern that I've been talking about for the past several weeks, which is helping, obviously, the activity, the flurry of activity that we have in the Eastern Pacific right now. We are literally on our fourth storm in the Pacific, so quite an active start there indeed. It's because of this, and it's also going to make for watching things potentially in the Atlantic Basin, especially over the next week or so, as we have the Central American gyre set up. And just really quickly before we go to the model, back to the map here, lots of energy in the Caribbean, also some tropical waves moving through. We're going to have to watch this energy, especially as it begins to build over Central America and as we head into next week, because I'll show you here on the GFS. You could see, especially as we get into next week, lots of vorticity here, almost something trying to consolidate. And then it moves into the Bay of Campeche. And if I showed you, and if you were with me yesterday on yesterday's Outlook video, you could see that the GFS actually still tries to consolidate something here in the Bay of Campeche today, but definitely not as organized as it was yesterday. But you notice we have lots of energy over Central America, and this is generally associated with this favorable pattern of upward motion and rising air, but it just depends on whether or not all this energy that is over Central America is able to lift north enough that it'll have enough time to consolidate over potentially the Caribbean or maybe the southwestern Gulf of Mexico, otherwise known as the Bay of Campeche. Yesterday, the model, especially the GFS, was very sold and potentially something happening. Today, at least if we take it out to the next week, so this is Friday next week, not so much. And one reason you could see why is look at how strong this ridge is, especially over the northern Gulf and over the southern United States. Very strong trades that'll be pumping all throughout the Caribbean, and any sort of moisture over Central America will be kept over Central America and probably will not have enough time, at least on the GFS in this case, to be able to, or really won't have enough space to move northward enough that it could try to consolidate over water. But we'll have to watch and see if the models change. I'm not entirely sure if we will get development, but this does definitely look like a signal. And this is 6 to 7 days out. Things could still change, and I'll really quickly show you another model here, the Canadian, which was really aggressive yesterday, and at least today, this is roughly a week out, the Canadian still tries to show development in the Western Gulf, generally coming from this energy that we have over Central America, and looks like the Canadian has enough of a weaker ridge that it allows this energy to lift north into the Bay of Campeche, and you could definitely see that it consolidates quite a bit. Probably a bona fide or a decent tropical storm, at least on this run of the Canadian, but still lots up in the air. But the signs are there, or at least the signs are not completely ignorable. And we'll just have to watch over the next week to see what happens. The Gulf and the Caribbean and the Bay of Campeche, I've been mentioning it for the longest time ever. These are the typical areas that we watch for this time of year, because that's where generally the Atlantic is most favorable right now. So we'll have to see if something generally comes out of this mess of energy over Central America. Maybe not looking at it much right now, but we'll see, of course, over the next week if something or if anything does become a little bit more consolidated on the models. Really quickly before I end, I wanted to bring this up today because this was really cool. It actually came out yesterday, but today Google made public a new site that reveals their latest AI weather model. That's right, Google now has publicly made available an AI weather model that they created themselves. And this is very interesting because last year they were very accurate, apparently, with Milton's forecast. In fact, this is the forecast last year for Hurricane Milton 3 days before landfall in Florida. I mean, I don't know if it could get more accurate than that. Also very close with intensity too. And that's actually very important because intensity is one of the biggest areas of uncertainty that we still have when it comes to forecasting. We've done a really good job over the last several years in trying to nail down track, but intensity is still very much a weakness. And I guess the AI model still has yet to improve on that, as this guy here, Noah Berggren, says that the AI model failed to grasp Milton reaching anywhere near Cat 5 status. But it's very interesting, and this will definitely be a very, very cool thing to use throughout the hurricane season. And I'm pretty sure we might even be using it ourselves at some point, especially once we get a big hurricane. If we do get them, hopefully not, to impact the U.S. this year. Maybe I'll whip out this model and see what it shows. But yet another model with what seems to be a revolutionary or an ever-evolving field of AI weather models. And it is definitely revolutionary to the weather community because we're probably going to see all sorts of changes, probably for the good, for weather forecasting, which is one of the biggest struggles in humanity today. And especially with hurricane forecasting, especially over the last years, I mean, you see how many people are moving to the coastline now, and more than ever now, how many people are really paying attention to the tropics. This will absolutely be revolutionary, and it's probably one of many other AI models to come. And I'll actually be interested to see if we could get any of these new AI models on Tropical Tidbits, because we already have the European version of the AI, or the European model. They created their AI version for their model, and that's on Tropical Tidbits. Maybe we could get this Google AI model on Tropical Tidbits. That'll be very cool. Not sure though, but a suggestion for Levi Cowan if he's watching. With that being said, though, not much else to go over today. Obviously, we're watching Tropical Storm Dalila in the Pacific. I'll have more updates on that on Twitter especially. And if you want to follow me on Twitter, same name as here on YouTube, Danilo Evangelista. And obviously, I will post another video update tomorrow. So if you are new to my channel and if you're interested in that, please make sure to like, comment, and especially subscribe. Turn on the notification bell so you can get videos the moment I upload them, especially if you are interested in updates on Tropical Storm Dalila. which I'll have for you tomorrow. So with that being said, stay safe. Really stay safe, especially because I know there's a lot of things going on now in the world. So make sure you stay safe, be vigilant. Peace, love, and kindness to you all. And we will talk again, once again, tomorrow.